It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are both coming to you from our homes on this wet and cool Wednesday. And we'll be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports. So stick around. We're looking forward to it. Hope y'all are too. Wade, how's your hump day?
Man, things are great, Mo. Good to be with you. Good to be with everybody. Like you said, kind of gross. Got some snow in the forecast in the next couple days, but yeah, it's gonna be all right. Currently watching Everton and Liverpool do battle. The Merseyside Derby is underway. Final time ever played at Goodison Park, so really can't ask for much more on this Wednesday.
Man, don't be talking about snow as we are wrapping up the high school basketball season, getting ready for postseason play here over the next week to 10 days. We don't need folks to be out of school. I know that they're not in school in Murray County today because of illness, but that's not weather related and it's not impacting athletics. But we don't need to be deviating from any schedules because the postseason is long enough, particularly at the district tournament level, as is. So no snow. Anything you got to prevent snow, throw it at this thing over the next few days because we don't need this backed up.
So. Yeah, I'm with you there, but I'm also, if it's going to be 20 degrees on Sunday night, then I better get some snow. I don't want 20 with no snow. And you're right. Giles County's out today due to weather with all the rain coming in. So it's kind of wild. It's kind of wacky, and it's definitely a Wednesday.
It most certainly is a Wednesday, and on this Wednesday, as we typically do, we'll be visiting with Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media here in the next segment, talking a little local hoops. Local hoops kind of took it on the chin last night at the SEC level. We'll be talking about some other teams right around here close as well. But, yeah, things didn't go well for the two teams of most interest locally in last night's play. I'm sure we'll get into that with Joe in the next segment. In the next hour, we will visit with our favorite NBA analyst, recent Belmont University graduate Landon SECREST. He's going to help us sort everything out from the trade deadline and thereafter and get us ready for the All-Star game and take a look at what the Lakers are going to do after they rescinded their trade. So we're looking forward to speaking with Landon in the next hour. And again, Joe Sullivan in the next segment. We'll also be talking a little baseball. It's that time of year, those magic words, pitchers and catchers report. Got a little football to get into, some women's basketball. And it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the final segment of the show. Wade and I will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. And trust me when I tell you, it is wild, wacky, weird, as Mark threw in last week, wondrous. It is all of that and then some. So be sure and stick around for the final segment. We've got a lot of good stuff to get to there and between now and there. So, and it's yucky outside, but it's going to be fun in here for the next couple of hours. Stick around. Wade, shall we get into it? We've set it all up. Okay, let's get to yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Buckle up, boys and girls. The Wednesday rundown is here, and we are off and running with girls basketball action from last night. It was Hillsboro on top of Antioch, 57-19. Hendersonville scraping by Beach with a 42-38 victory. It was Brentwood Academy by 1, 41-40 versus Innsworth. CPA on top of Father Ryan, 46-43. Clarksville edging, just kidding, blowing out Clarksville Northeast. I tried Northeast, but it was 70-22. Hickman County with a 46-42 victory over Columbia. It was Cookeville on top of Smyrna, 58-19. Richland Wallops Culleoka, 55-20. Lady Raiders finished the regular season unbeaten in district play. DCA on top of Clarksville Academy, 50-45. Dixon County with a 50-42 win versus Kenwood. FC Boyd Senior Christian, 71. Pleasant View Christian 21. It was Murfreesboro Central Magnet defeating Giles County in overtime last night, 41-37. Valor Collegiate with a 60-17 win versus Glencliff. Good Pasture all over Friendship Christian, 48-18. Green Hill absolutely throttling Gallatin, 73-9. Santa Fe on top of Hampshire, 54-30. It was Harpeth Hall, 63. Pope John Paul II, 35. Henry County on top of Clarksville Northwest, 54-23. Houston County, 55. Hollow Rock Brewston, 38. Brentwood on top of Independence, 76-43. Pearl Cone, 72. Lead Academy, 31. Wilson Central takes care of Laverne, 58-37.
Also, Lawson with a 50-20 win over Martin Luther King. Lebanon 61, Stewart's Creek 47. Liberty Creek with a 52-38 win over Sycamore. It was Lawrence County 47, Marshall County 35. Cane Ridge defeats McGavock 54-49. Lewis County with a 51-31 win over Mount Pleasant. Nashville Christian defeats Davidson Academy 51-32. It was Nolansville 58, Summit 34, Oakland 55, Riverdale 37. Page with a 47-41 win over Franklin. Ravenwood doubles up Centennial 44-22. Westmoreland by 10 over Red Boiling Springs 38-28. Rockvale with a 45-43 win over Blackman. A little bit of a shocker there. Good stuff from the Lady Rockets. Rossview 57, Springfield 51. Warren County defeats Siegel 46-9. Shelbyville with a 43-38 win over Spring Hill. It was Lipscomb Academy 63, St. Cecilia Academy 31. Creekwood defeats Stewart County 41-36. Wayne County downing Summertown. Whew. Told y'all that was going to be a good one. Didn't quite expect this. 52-35, the Lady Wildcats over the Lady Eagles there. Kirkwood with a 50-37 win over West Creek, and Cheatham County defeats White House Heritage 55-22.
Boys scores coming in from last night. Hillsboro on top of Antioch, 57-46. It was BGA 55, Franklin Road Academy 49. Beach was a winner versus Hendersonville, 63-57. Brentwood Academy 65, Ensworth 52. Father Ryan was a 60-41 winner versus CPA. Clarksville all over Northeast, 75-39. Hickman County picks up a nice win, 66-54 versus Columbia. It was Cookville 61, Smyrna 55. Richland on top of Culleoka 73-45. Giles County with a nice win, 71-52 versus Murfreesboro Central Magnet. It was Green Hill 48, Gallatin 34, Santa Fe 54, Hampshire 23 last night. Henry County picks up a 59-49 win versus Clarksville Northwest. Houston County 20 points better than Hollow Rock Brewston, 61-41. It was Brentwood 54, Independence 52. Close ball game last night. John Overton with an 83-44 victory versus Hunters Lane. Laverne on top of Wilson Central 48-34. MLK 71, Lawson 60. It was Lebanon 73, Stewart's Creek 69, and Liberty Creek on top of Sycamore last night 66-55.
Also, Lighthouse Christian out of Antioch defeats Zion Christian 55-36. Pope John Paul II with a 58-42 win over Montgomery Bell Academy. Hume Fogg defeats Maplewood 51-39. It was Marshall County 65, Lawrence County 27. Cane Ridge with a 77-43 win over McGavock. Joe Burns edges Montgomery Central 38-37. Lewis County with a 44-41 win over Mount Pleasant. Summit defeats Nolansville 59-51. It was Riverdale 86, Oakland 83. Close and entertaining. Franklin 45, Page 42. Providence Christian with a 103-40 win over Middle Tennessee Christian. Centennial defeats Ravenwood 47-41. Westmoreland with a 54-21 win over Red Boiling Springs. Rockvale completes the sweep, downing Blackman 48-37. Ross View 55, Springfield 50. Shelbyville defeats Spring Hill 64-51. Station Camp with a 55-44 win over Greenbrier. It was Creekwood 59, Stewart County 34. Columbia Academy, this is in Division 2A District 3 quarterfinal action. CA with a 67-65 overtime win over University School of Nashville. Jeremy Jackson with 36 for the Bulldogs in that one. Summertown 68, Wayne County 59. Also in D2A District 3, it was Webb School of Bell Buckle 70, Grace Christian of Franklin 56, Kirkwood with a 53-32 win over West Creek, Portland 50, White House 48, and White House Heritage 66. Cheatham County 32.
Men's college basketball scores from last night. Kentucky was a winner versus Tennessee, 75-64. Auburn took care of Vanderbilt, 80-68. NBA action, staying up late last night to see the Grizzlies defeat the Suns, 119-112 was your final in that one. That brings us into today's schedule. Boys basketball, high school variety. 6 p.m. starts for all of these, including Nashville Christian at Clarksville Academy, DCA at Ezell Harding. Friendship Christian is hosting Davidson Academy tonight. Good Pasture is playing host to Mount Juliet Christian. College basketball doubleheader action here in Pulaski this evening. It'll be Faulkner making the trip up. Southern States Athletic Conference showdown at UT Southern. Those games get underway at 5:30.
Women's basketball action tonight. Austin P travels to Carrollton, Georgia, taking on West Georgia. That's a 6 o'clock start. You can see it on ESPN Plus. At 7 on ESPN Plus, men's Missouri Valley Conference action. Belmont travels to Valparaiso. Athletes Unlimited basketball, they got things started at 10:30 this morning with a school field trip game as Team SECREST defeated Team Nurse 97-79. We'll talk more about that one later. At 7 o'clock tonight, you can see this one on ESPN, or you can trek down to Municipal Auditorium to see Team Bradford and Team Harris. Again, that's a 7 o'clock start on ESPN Plus. If you feel like staying up, 9:30 out on the coast, the Memphis Grizzlies are traveling to the LA Clippers. Again, that's a 9:30 tip. It'll be shown on FanDuel Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And as I mentioned, some of the greatest words you can hear, pitchers and catchers report. That has been the case in Northport, Florida, as the Atlanta Braves have opened 2025 spring training today. The Houston Astros will get going tomorrow. And so if you see Wade and I with an extra little spring in our step here over the next couple of days, it's probably got something to do with baseball is back. Yay.
Well, you misspoke, Mo. It's not no longer referred to as baseball. The Dodgers Invitational is back. But it is at least a little exciting because everybody's record is 0-0. So I mean,
yeah, so much for that spring
hasn't really got underway just yet.
So much for that spring in my step. Thank you, Wade, for
I got to bring levity to the situation here, but you're right. It is an exciting time, especially for some franchises that didn't have seasons that they had grown accustomed to over the last couple of years, that being our two favorite franchises.
Yeah, that being our two favorites, and both of our teams have questions. And when you talk about what's coming back for Atlanta and what has left Atlanta, Max Fried is gone north. Charlie Morton has gone north, both to the AL East. Fried is now with the New York Yankees. Morton is with the Orioles. You're down Spencer Strider as well. He won't be back for the start of the season. So, you know, piecing together things behind Chris Sale and Ronaldo Lopez is going to be a challenge early on, but obviously hope springs eternal. And when you've got the lineup that the Braves have got, even though Ronald Acuna Jr. won't be in it early on either, you still kind of like your chances. Obviously, both the Mets and the Phillies did some things over the offseason to kind of get themselves in a better position, and they both finished ahead of Atlanta last year. But I would not count the Braves out in 2025. Do so at your own peril. Meanwhile, Houston's kind of got some questions in the form of, is Breggy going to be back or not?
Yeah, that's the number one question.
And you would like to think that would have been answered by now. I almost think that it is a positive for Houston that we don't know yet.
Kind of, yeah, that's the way I interpret it, right? The longer this drags out, kind of like we saw with the polar bear in New York, it feels like the longer it drags out, the longer that kind of favors whatever franchise a team or a player's been on. So if Bregman doesn't come back, it would kind of be a little bit of a shock almost at this point to this Astros fan at least. And then, yeah, they'll try and piece together some other questions. You know, Verlander's gone. They're going to have to try and figure out a hole with Presley in the bullpen. So Houston's got some things to figure out, and spring training will be a nice way to kind of get a little early look, if you will, as to what maybe they're kind of trying to tinker with heading into the regular season.
They've got some things to figure out, but they've also got some things in place. Looking at you, Framber Valdez. So, I mean, it's not like woe is me at Minute Maid Park, I don't think. I think they're going to be in pretty good shape. They just, like you said, there's some holes to be addressed. And
real quick, Dakin Park. No longer can we refer to it as Minute Maid. They're real sticklers for that. The sign just came down like 3 days ago, and they had a big to do about that. So I don't want to run afoul of anybody down in H-Town.
Yeah, we don't want to make anybody mad in H-Town for sure. So yeah,
I mean, it's still Enron Field to me, but yeah, I get where you go with that. I just wish we still had Towles Hill out there, if I'm being honest. So
well, that's because you don't play center field.
That's right.
Oh, let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will be joined by Joe Sullivan at Globe Sullivan on Twitter, talking a little local hoops. Stick around. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In our final segment, we will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, wackiest, and most wondrous news from across the globe. Be sure and stick around for that. Right now, we're joined by Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media, talking a little local men's hoops. Joe, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you.
Yes,
Good
sir.
to see you as well, man. I tell you what, we're going to throw it to you. What's the biggest thing on your radar right now from a local standpoint?
So I think this is a very big week for all the local teams if they're going to move forward and actually do something remarkable or at least memorable this season. This is a big chance this week for a lot of teams. So I'll go over all of them and explain it. I'll start with Vanderbilt because I'm still kind of charged up over that game last night, the game with Auburn and Vanderbilt last night, which was a terrific, exciting, interesting, fun to watch game. And I thought Vanderbilt proved their worth again by playing so tough against Auburn. They weren't ready for what Auburn was ready for Auburn's intensity at the start of the game, and they fell behind 15-0. But then early in the second half, they had a 3-point lead. They fought their way back into the game, despite shooting very poorly from three. They only hit 3 threes the whole game, and they had to lead, but they couldn't sustain it. And it's a lesson learned. We've talked about this on the show, I believe, about how people think sometimes basketball, the most important part of the game is the last few minutes, and it's just not true. I mean, in this case, and it often is the case, the first 5 minutes are the most important because they fell behind by 15 points, and in the end, they really could never overcome that. I think they proved that team I saw last night belongs in the NCAA tournament, playing on an even level with Auburn, the best team in the country. So that great news. Now the bad news: Saturday, Vanderbilt at Tennessee, and after Tennessee's result last night, losing to Kentucky, do we talk about battered Vol syndrome, Mo? Is that the
Man, it's real, man. I'm telling you. And if you don't believe it, just go to Vol Twitter and check out the number of folks jumping off buildings, figuratively speaking. There, I mean, it's amazing the football mindset that so many fans bring to other sports. You can lose a game in basketball, you can lose a game in baseball, and still be okay just because it's not a 12-game schedule. And a lot of folks don't realize that, I don't think. But
here's the nightmare.
Yeah, what?
Here is the Vol battered syndrome. They got swept by Kentucky. If they lose to Vanderbilt Saturday, they would have been swept by Vanderbilt and Kentucky.
Oof. Yeah. Well, and we talked about that yesterday, during yesterday's show. I mean, that was the last thing that Tennessee wants, is to get swept by Kentucky, even though they've got a better record than Kentucky at this point. Getting swept by Kentucky is never going to be a good thing. And so everybody wants Rick fired again, or wants Rick to retire, or whatever it is. Never mind that with that loss, he's 20-5.
It's going to be fascinating when we get to March in the Vols and see. I retain my doubts about the Final Four team.
Well,
but it'll be fascinating.
You got to be able to score.
Yes.
And if you don't have doubts about Tennessee's ability to score on a consistent basis, then I don't know what you've been watching. So, I mean, I get it.
So Auburn, what makes them fantastic is obviously they have great talent and they're well coached and all that. But the transfer portal, what they have mined. I got Chaney Johnson, 6'7" kid, played at Alabama Huntsville for 3 years, and now he's at Auburn. 9 of 10 from the field. At one point in the second half, he scored 9 straight points. He took over the game for Auburn last night. How do they find this guy at Alabama Huntsville? Lenny Acuff didn't even coach him. So it's I got to share a chuckle with Lenny about this. And then Denver Jones, their guard, who played at Florida International, and he was great last night for them. So they got depth, Auburn, and high level talent with Broom and others. But yet Vanderbilt played them even for a lot of the game. So I have high hopes for Vanderbilt, and I can't sit here and say they won't win Saturday. They could win Saturday. I don't think they will. Tennessee should protect home court, But what a chance for Vanderbilt, which is my overall point here. If they were to come and win at Tennessee, what that would do for their season. A season-changing victory, perhaps. I mean, their season is great as it is, but it really will be something. And then we have your Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders, who really, I got to say, they blew a chance last week, losing to Jacksonville State on Thursday with a chance to go into a first-place tie. And now Jack State has a 2-game lead on everyone. So they only play one game this week, Middle Tennessee, but we know what that game is, don't we, Mo?
We do indeed. Absolutely.
They go to Western Kentucky, and this is a game they have to win, I think, just to keep their regular season moving in the right direction. A loss here would just throws them back into the middle of the CUSA field. It's they have to win at Western Kentucky on Saturday. A huge game that can, again, alter their season,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and they beat Western down here a couple of weeks ago, and now to have to go up there and pick up a win, that Jack State loss, it's a tough one for a number of reasons. But as we spoke with Chip Walters yesterday, Jacksonville State has not lost a conference game at home, I don't believe. In fact, I don't think they've lost at home at all. So they've been really tough on their floor, and you kind of got to give them credit for that. But yeah, that would have been a great opportunity for MTSU last Thursday night had they been able to pull that one off on the road. So we will see what happens in Bowling Green with the guys on Saturday. Joe Sullivan, Main Street Media, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking little local hoops.
So Lipscomb, let's move on to Lipscomb. So I'm sorry, Mo, just got them in order here, so I wanted to got it.
No, that's fine. Go right ahead.
So Lipscomb, it's a very strange win over Queens last Saturday, where they were trailing at the half by 9 and then scored 61 second-half points to win going away. So here's what's happened to Lipscomb. Lenny Acuff now has 4 players that just play the whole game. Jacob Ignatovich, Will Pruitt, Joe Anderson, and Giassi Powell. They're going to play the whole game. Ignatovich played 39 minutes against Queens on last Saturday. So this is the team he has, and then he puts in some other people to play with those 4 guys. Still, they're in a 12-way tie for first place in the Atlantic Sun. All right, I'm joking. It's a 4-way tie. Okay. And
might as well be.
It really is, because there's other teams right behind the 4-way tie, including sneaky Eastern Kentucky, that could make things difficult. So it's wide open. So now they really have to protect home court this week. They cannot, despite their playing 4 guys at a time, they can't get beat Thursday against Stetson, which is near the bottom of the standings. But then Saturday, Florida Gulf Coast comes in, who's one of the teams tied with them for first place. A part of, first place is at stake on Saturday at Allen Arena, and Lipscomb needs to win that game. Now, Lipscomb, we talked about them, and I'm not sure I have the faith that this team is on an upward trajectory, especially now with Dylan Faulkner getting hurt with his ankle, and Grant Asselman, who replaced him in the starting lineup, has now been out indefinitely with an illness. So he's basically playing 6-7 guys, and Lenny likes to play 10 easily, and he just isn't able to anymore. And then we have Tennessee State, which I have a new favorite player. Can I make that official announcement on the show?
Please do.
So Aaron Nkrumah for Tennessee State is my new favorite player. This is the kid who played Division III last year at Worcester State in Massachusetts. Came here, and he ends up being Tennessee State's point guard. And we talked about it last week, how many assists he's had. So he has just been stuffing the stat sheet. He's not a great shooter, but he will score double figures. He's going to have assists. He's going to have rebounds. He's going to have steals. He's a terrific defender. I have really gotten on board with his game. I really like him. And meanwhile, Tennessee State defends home court, wins both their home games last week, and turns around now. They're almost 500. They're 12-13. They're 8-6 in the Ohio Valley, and now they go on the road. And they have Eastern Illinois Thursday night, winnable game.
Mm-hmm.
and then Saturday at SEMO, Southeastern Missouri, who was one of the teams tied for first in the Ohio Valley. So and they lost to SEMO in double overtime at home. So they can do it. The development of Nkrumah and, Penny has said that we are the most physical, athletic team in the Ohio Valley. They want to impose their will and get to the foul line. They want to get like 35 foul shots a game because they're so much bigger and stronger than everyone. And that's been a successful formula recently. As I said, they've won 6 out of 7. So Tennessee State has surprised me with their resurgence, and let's see how they do on the road this weekend. And
You
finally,
feel
we have
like
Go ahead.
hang on just a second. You kind of feel like this is going to be TSU's time of year, Joe, just from the standpoint that they did have to bring in so many guys over the offseason to replenish that roster. They only had one holdover from last season, and that time to gel and everything may be now paying off for them.
I know Penny feels that way, that he felt that they had some injuries that set them back earlier in the season where people missed games, and now most everyone's here. They're still missing a kid, London, who was out for the season. Khalil London, who was transferred from Charleston. He tore his ACL, but he'll supposed to be back next year. But they're coming around. There's no question. They're at least everything in its place. It's in the Ohio Valley Conference that they're coming around. And
sure.
This isn't a team that's going to advance to the Sweet 16. That's not what I'm saying, folks. And but I think they keep playing well. They could win the Ohio Valley Conference tournament, which would be very exciting, I think. And then we'll see what happens in the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
Belmont is our last team we should address here, Bill. Mm-hmm. And they go on the road this week. So they're 17-8, 9-5. They're pretty safely 2-game lead in 4th place to get that last bye for the conference tournament. They can't afford to stumble. They got to keep moving forward. So they are at Valparaiso tonight. I'm sorry.
Tonight.
Mm-hmm. And then they're at Southern Illinois on Saturday. Both these teams they've already beaten in Nashville. Both games were close. Could have gone either way. So it's tenuous. But Belmont is 7-3 on the road this year. They have a great road record. And so all these teams I think have important games that really could affect how the season is going to fade. So it's an important week.
Joe, as you kind of go through all those teams, which team in your mind needs to finish their last 5 or 6 regular season games to give them some extra mojo going into whatever the postseason looks like for those guys? Which team is in dire need of a good finish in your mind?
Well, I think Lipscomb is the one I would think of because we had such high hopes for them before the season. And they would need to show me that they're still that team of that still have that potential. I don't really see it anymore. So they would have to prove me wrong. So that's the one. But of course, I know you only told me to pick one, but I'm just going to say, Vanderbilt moving toward an NCAA bid. I'd love to see them get a few more wins too.
It feels like unless Vanderbilt just absolutely falls apart, they're at least on the trajectory still to get that bid that they're looking for.
Yeah, they're not. I think last time I checked, Joe Lunardi of ESPN had them as one of the last 4 buys. They're not even in the first 4. So that's a really good spot to be. And they'll be a double-figure seed, though, and 9 or 10. 9 single, I know, is a single digit, but 10 or 9, I'll phrase it that way. Of course, once you become, you're in the 8-9 game, which is always a toss-up, but then you have to come out and play a number 1 seed. So I've always felt that if you really want to be a 7 or a 10 to avoid that second-round matchup against the top seed.
Yeah, I've almost felt like you want to be I kind of feel like maybe an 11 is the sweet spot. I mean, everybody gets caught up in getting a high seed, but what you don't realize is you want to put yourself in the best position to advance. And like you said, if it comes down to a 9 or an 11, I'd rather be an 11. Yeah.
Now it could be. Now some 11s play in the first 4. But it's not the worst thing.
It's not the worst thing, and a lot of times, playing in that first 4 kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of knock a little rust off, kind of get settled into the tournament atmosphere and that kind of thing. You've seen 11s that win 3 games in a weekend. So
yeah, and we've seen people come out of the first 4 and go to the final 4. So it's and once again, I will be there. By the way, I love the first 4. I'm driving up to Dayton and going to take both nights in. Just a tremendous. The people of Dayton are the best college basketball fans in America, as far as I'm concerned.
And they kind of go regardless of who shows up, don't they, Joe?
Absolutely. They are there. The place is sold out. And hey, look, the University of Dayton games are all sold out when they play. And they've been a disappointment to a lot of Dayton fans. But the people still come. I was up there recently. I went up to see my alma mater, St. Joe's, play at Dayton in January. And the place was sold out. Even though they've been a little disappointing. St. Joe's is not exactly an enticing opponent, but it was sold out. And they were very loud. And they won.
Joe, you mentioned not necessarily St. Joe's, but what do we make of St. John's at the moment, who can kind of sneakily stacking wins, and they eerily look very similar to Tennessee, maybe Tennessee light almost in that sense, the way they approach.
Oh, that's a very good comparison, Wade. I really agree with you. Yeah, they are a great defensive team in the mode of Tennessee. It's remarkable sometimes to have them see how well they play defense. And even worse than Tennessee, perhaps, they have offensive problems. Rick's given up trying to play the three-point game. They're playing inside the arc and playing good defense. That's their philosophy. And you know what's amazing? Time goes by. I'm not sure Wade's even old enough, Mo, to share this with us. But like when St. John's used to be, among the top 5 programs in America in terms of wins back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
They have not won a conference championship since 1992. And it's think how much time has passed since they've been great, and they're now in a very good spot to win the Big East regular season. And it was a remarkable turnaround by Rick Pitino, and he did it in 2 seasons. He had a decent year last year. They were certainly a bubble team, but he didn't like the roster, and he made other adjustments, and it's paid off.
They got a 2-game lead right now, and you got to keep going down the standings before you see UConn there at 9-4. I was almost hoping Friday night that Rick would stroll to the podium and say that he is the best coach in the sport after they got that road win at UConn. The Big East is fun again, and them and Creighton, I think, are getting ready to tangle at some point.
So UConn beat Creighton last night. Wait, did you see what our bad boy did?
I missed that one. I can only imagine, though.
Yeah, so as he's leaving the court, he was being taunted, but he holds up 2 fingers, goes, two rings, and then like waves goodbye to the Creighton fans.
That's about all you got at that point.
Would a teenager even do that? If I was the father of a teenager that did that, we'd have to have a serious talk about how that's incorrect behavior. So it's just this guy, people make excuses for him, and it needs to stop. It's disgraceful.
Clearly there's nobody on that campus willing to have that conversation with him.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's this is where the AD has to be in charge. I don't care how many national championships the guys won. There's a way to behave, and that's not it.
And that's not it. I mean, it's tough to watch. It's tough. I don't know how some people get away with that type behavior.
Winning really lets you get away with a lot.
I guess.
Real quick, St. John's and Creighton is Sunday, 3:00. So no Super Bowl. Yeah, that's a primetime spot on Sunday. That'll be a fun one.
Really will be.
Joe, Wade needs a little Big Ten love for his Wolverines. Big win last night against Purdue as well.
I don't need love. They got the win. The results bore themselves out. They went from getting pummeled by 27 to Purdue. Now, granted, they had to hang on for dear life, but they got the win last night. First top 10 win in Dusty May's era, and it's only his first season. They were last in the Big Ten this time last year.
And Michigan State cooperates and loses to
also
let you take over first place, right?
Little brother taking a loss never hurts, but especially when it comes into the standings. It was great scrolling through Bluesky last night, looking at kind of some of the messages from the Michigan State fans, wondering, they were tweeting the national writers, hey, if this happens and this happens, where do we sit? And then they go out and lose.
That didn't happen.
It was a great situation last night, and Michigan gets them next week. That'll be a fun matchup.
So Michigan coach Dusty May, for those who don't know, listening to us, went to school at Indiana, was the student manager there under Bob Knight.
He's hot on the list.
And Indiana's looking for a new coach. And his press conference after Michigan beat Indiana on over the weekend, he didn't say he was willing to leave Michigan, but he didn't say he wasn't willing to go to Indiana. Did I get that phrasing right?
That's pretty accurate.
He didn't say he was willing to leave, but he didn't say he was going to stay either, right? So yeah.
So does that make you nervous, Wade?
I mean, it would stink to lose him, obviously. The good news is, if he does bounce after the year, whoever they potentially go after, it's a much more desirable situation than what he was coming in from last place at the tail end of the Juwan Howard era. So it's at least a little more sellable. And Michigan's kind of started to loosen the purse strings for the first time in terms of NIL. So maybe a chance to kind of reshape their program a little bit.
I don't know what it looks like when a guy of that stature at that level leaves after 1 year. Just from a recruiting standpoint, from a belief standpoint, how can I trust this guy?
I mean, you just say, you spin it right. It's my dream job. I would not have left for any other job except Indiana. That's the only salvageable way to sell that, right?
Yeah. I mean, we saw it here a few years back with football at a certain school a little bit east of here. So I mean, it happens, but it just feels like to me that would be tough. It almost feels like to me, if I'm Indiana administration, I would be a little wary of that. But I guess all you're looking at in that situation is getting your guy. So, and it'd be tough to turn Dusty May down. So
they've been so bad, they'll take anybody. It feels like anybody with a pulse.
It's just unfortunate it didn't work. It's unfortunate that it didn't work out with Mike Woodson, but it didn't work out with Mike Woodson. So it'll be interesting.
And remember, Kelvin Sampson was there for 2 seasons, and now he had to leave because of NCAA violations that now are laughable.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And look what he has done at Houston. He brought Houston back from the dead, and they're seems like they're a national championship contender annually.
He's done a heck of a job. So I mean, Indiana has kind of had the right guys. They just not gotten the right results on or off the court, I guess. But it's still, a dream job probably for a lot of folks, as Wade put it. So we'll bear watching as the Big Ten unfolds. Joe Sullivan, where are you going this week?
So I'm going to be on the Lipscomb bandwagon, but everyone else is away. So it's me and the Bisons this weekend, Thursday and Saturday.
You could roll up to Bowling Green.
I went earlier this year with Lipscomb. They played there on a Sunday afternoon, and I thought it was a really important game for them, and they did not win. That's one of the disappointments of their season. But I love that. I hope you don't get angry at saying I really like that arena.
No,
a lot of character in that arena. And I went over and saw the little honoree for Jim McDaniel, where they have his uniform and all that. And what a great player he was. They went to the Final Four back in the 60s with him, and so I thought that's a cool place. That's a great
lot of history in that program. If it weren't for my MTSU ties and allegiances, I could probably find some like for them, but I certainly respect their program. I just don't like them because they're Western and we're middle. So it is what it is. But Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media joining us here, as he does pretty much every Wednesday, talking local hoops. Joe, we appreciate your insight and your hard work keeping up with all these programs, and look forward to speaking with you next week.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe.
When we continue here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday on Main Street Sports Today, let's talk a little football. There's a couple of moves that have taken place here over the last day or so in the coaching ranks that bear discussing. So we will. Stay tuned.
You wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now?
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Bobby Slowick has a new gig. He has joined Mike McDaniels' staff down at Miami as senior passing game coordinator. So, bouncing back after having been dismissed as OC with the Texans after their AFC South championship, their playoff win, and then their loss in the divisional round. But Slowick's taken his talents to South Beach. Interesting. Gonna get a chance to work with Tua, I guess.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah, right, exactly. Slowick and McDaniel were together with the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan. So Miami OC is Frank Smith, quarterbacks coach / passing game coordinator Darrell Bevel, whose name has been knocked around for various head coaching vacancies in the past. So how does that work? If Bevel is quarterbacks coach and pass game coordinator, and Slowick is senior pass game coordinator, who is? I'm fascinated by the hierarchies with all these titles and that kind of thing. How does that work?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting question, right? I think the main thing is if you're Miami, two things. Number one, if you can keep Tua healthy, and number two, if you can keep Tyreek Hill happy / on your team, that will be your biggest concerns. The rest has seemingly fallen into place almost organically. And if you're Miami, though, if those two things end up holding serve and being true, you're adding a guy with offensive coordinator experience, a guy who was really coveted this time last year.
Right.
So no matter where he is on your pecking order, that feels like a good get for the Dolphins if, and that's the big if, obviously, is if you can keep those two other guys healthy and happy.
Which of those do you expect to be harder?
Well, again, knock on wood, but it feels like Tua is going to be okay until training camp and the team start actually, running into each other. It feels like, keep him in bubble wrap until then, and he should be okay. But you got a lot of questions. There were trade rumors about Reek as recently as a couple days ago. Still not sure where that sits. There's always a threat that he could just throw his arms up and say, I'm out of here. So you're definitely more concerned about him and the happy factor. You'll worry about Tua and the health factor once the season actually gets underway. Because if the season is underway, you kind of know what you got. But they got the more question marks with Reek at the moment.
Interesting sidelight. Speaking of Reek, there's an article here on CBS Sports. Dolphins Tyreek Hill says he regrets season-ending comments, reiterates desire to remain with Miami. Hill was apparently speaking out of frustration. So, yeah, just, for what that's worth. So were you lying then, or are you lying now? I could have handled the situation better. Instead of saying I'm out, I could obviously handle it better, and I wish I did. In the heat of the moment, I just said whatever I had to say, and I'm taking full accountability of that. I want to win, we want to win, and I'm sure the fans want to win. I feel like a lot of things needed to be said. It's tough right now. I want to come back. And clearly, Miami's better with Tyreek than they are without him, because what he brings to the table ain't a whole lot of guys that can do what he does. So,
no, and it's in tandem. It's the him and Tua are in lockstep. The offense, we saw it when Tua goes out last year. They go from, a dark horse. You talk about them maybe making a deep playoff run to borderline relevancy. They really fall off a cliff. And when they're not in sync, and it's got to be one and it's got to be the other, it feels like. Achane is not a bad back. Mostert's certainly not a bad back. And Waddle has had his moments in the receiving game. But it all kind of hinges around those two guys, with McDaniel kind of pulling the strings.
Yeah. It's interesting. Tyreek Hill's agent is Drew Rosenhaus, who was also Terrell Owens's agent and Antonio Brown's agent. So make of that what you will. Sliding to the college ranks, Ohio State apparently has a new defensive coordinator. And I would imagine there are Ohio State fans who remember Matt Patricia's reign as head coach of the Detroit Lions and wonder, why do we want this guy? But that's who they've got. Patricia coming off the Patriots staff to replace Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator. So
feels like they could have done worse, and we're talking about the coordinator position and not the head coach. So if I'm an Ohio State fan, maybe I'm not necessarily that excited. Certainly being in such proximity to Detroit, you got some weird memories, but kind of lurking behind the scenes with the Patriots and then the Eagles last year, he's kind of, rebuilt his image enough that it's maybe time for a stint back at a smaller level. And this feels safe. And at the end of the day, he's used to coaching NFL talent, and he's basically coaching NFL talent when you're talking about Ohio State. So, it should be an easy enough transition for him.
Yeah. From a talent standpoint, it shouldn't be an issue. And maybe it's just that some guys aren't built to be head coaches. Maybe his flame out at Detroit was just as simple as there was too much on his plate. I don't know. This guy's an aeronautical engineering major in college. Why is he even coaching football?
And the rocket scientist strikes yet again. Him and Dobbs need to end up on the same team, obviously, at some point, because we asked the same questions about that guy. So, again, it feels like Ohio State could have done worse, considering the bad part is when you make it that deep in the postseason, kind of like we talked about yesterday with Kellen Moore, you kind of are the last stop on the merry-go-round sometimes for teams to pluck one of your staffers. And so it feels like Ohio State could have done worse. And at the end of the day, they've got enough talent. Whatever deficiencies this guy may have as a defensive coordinator, they got enough talent in spades to deal with almost everybody else in the Big Ten. And as we've seen, all you got to do is get through the regular season with one, maybe two losses, and then you can figure out the rest in the postseason.
Well, they certainly did this past year. We'll see if they can do that again with Matt Patricia taking over as defensive coordinator, and they also have a new offensive coordinator, right? Because Chip Kelly's gone. Brian Hartline is stepping into the OC position for Ohio State, so they'll have a couple of first-year guys under Ryan Day as they try to defend their national championship.
Yeah, a couple new moving pieces, and kind of the same deal is Heartline especially, though. He's the guy that has been stirring that drink. A lot of folks really think that he's the guy that's kind of been the genius behind the recruits that they've been bringing in. Obviously, throwing bags of cash doesn't hurt, but he has been doing it for a long time as far as bringing in studs, whether it's Marvin Harrison Jr. or Smith, as we've seen recently. So, I mean, they certainly covet him. Losing him would have been a much bigger loss than losing their defensive coordinator. And so a little bit of a promotion. Day's kind of, got the new contract. Ohio State navigated this offseason for a championship winning team. It feels like they navigated about as well as they could have.
They throw a lot of cash at a lot of guys, but they seem to throw it at the right guys too. And there's something to be said for that.
They land the studs, baby.
Spend it well. Does Travis Kelce go out on Sunday's loss?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But apparently there is, some question as to whether or not he's going to come back for 2025. And is expected to make a decision before free agency starts next month, I guess, so that he could let the Chiefs know so that they could react accordingly if he's not coming back. But I just can't see a guy who has done what he's done with that franchise not wanting to run it back coming off of a 40-22 loss that wasn't that close in the Super Bowl. So apparently he said on his podcast, I know everybody wants to know whether or not I'm playing next year. Right now, I'm just kicking everything down the road. I'm kicking every can that I can down the road. I'm not making any crazy decisions, but right now the biggest thing is just being there for my teammates and being there for my coaches, understanding that there's a lot that goes into this thing. He mentioned that his production has been down over the last couple of years, and part of that's a function of getting old. But again, I just think he's too competitive to go out, not necessarily on a loss, but on that loss.
Yeah, and if nothing else, I mean, we've seen guys do this, obviously. Getting up there in years, of course. The good news is I don't think he's going to do like a full holdout, halfway of the season or anything. Mm-hmm. But you can pretty much bank on the Chiefs at least making the playoffs. And we've seen them 2 years ago go on the road and win games to get to the Super Bowl. So you pretty much are stepping back into a cushy situation if that's the route you decide to go to. Maybe you show up a little late to camp. Maybe, you work yourself back in and you find your stride in the middle of the season. He only had 2 games this year, Mo, where he had double-digit receptions, and he was really limited in the playoffs with just 13 total grabs, only 18 targets in 3 playoff games. So maybe, show up a little later, kind of use your well-deserved cachet and, step right into that sweet spot when the Chiefs need you most.
It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on what his availability is, if it is at all, for 2025 with Kansas City. So it'll certainly bear watching. Our number 1 here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday on Main Street Sports Today is in the books. When we return for our number 2, let's jump into the grab bag and see what we can find. Stay tuned on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Get started right now. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're getting in the grab bag, and we are getting into some murky waters that we typically don't get into on this show. We try not to be political. It's a conscious effort, but sometimes we aren't able to avoid it. During the final days of Joe Biden's presidential tenure, the United States Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights put out some guidance related to Title IX as it relates to NIL, stating that revenue sharing payments from schools to athletes must be proportionately distributed to men's and women's athletes. If the revenue sharing payments did not get distributed equally, schools would be in violation of Title IX, and you don't want to be in violation of Title IX. That guidance from the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights has been rescinded, meaning that schools can put those funds where they want to, i.e. football and men's basketball. That can't be good across the board, I don't think. Can it, Wade?
It's not good in terms of equality. That is for sure. Business leaders at schools might tell you they know how to best spend the money. But in terms of, giving everybody a fair shot, giving everybody equal rights and just rights, no, it doesn't seem good. No.
Yeah. Obviously it'll bear watching, and we'll see how it comes out, but it's just tough when so much ground has been made up in terms of trying to get women's athletes closer to equal footing with guys. And obviously it's been a fight, but to suffer a setback like that when there's so much money out there ideally for everybody, and kind of having an idea of where the large majority of it is going to go, it just doesn't feel very good to watch. So we'll be interested to see how that plays out over the long run. But yeah, that NIL guidance has been rescinded, and like like you said, Wade, there are some schools that, will be cool with that because again, it puts the onus of where the money goes on those individual campuses, and they don't have any real oversight in terms of divvying it up. So it'll bear watching, but that's where we are. And that's something that, kind of needed to get out there. I think a lot of folks will be talking about it here over the next few days. So we should as well. Speaking of women's athletics, I don't know, Wade, if you watched the 10:30 Athletes Unlimited basketball game from Municipal Auditorium. It was televised on ESPN Plus. Team SECREST with a 97-79 win over Team Nurse, but they had a bunch of screaming kids. I mean, take the MTSU games during the day and kind of double it. It played hell with their mics, I'm sure, but a lot of excited kids in the stands for this one. And early on, it just feels like the AU pro basketball effort, they have hit all the right notes during this first week and a half of their stay here in Nashville.
Yeah, it seems like they are off to a good start. And that's kind of just getting underway, right? It feels like whatever little subtle tweaks or adjustments that they need to make, which I could be wrong, but doesn't appear to the outsider, at least, like there needs to be a ton. But they'll get the chance to kind of smooth those out over the next couple. And you're right, this is going to be pretty fun. Did not get to hear the screaming kids, which is unfortunate. I look forward to that at 10:30 in the morning. I am going to be interested to see how this weekend plays out. They got sneakerhead and jersey night going down on Friday. They're going to have coffee mugs to give away for Athletes Unlimited's causes on Saturday. So they're rolling right in and leaning into the right things to get folks to show up and show out for these talented athletes.
No doubt. Second game again today at 7:00. You can see it on ESPN Plus. It's Team Bradford and Team Harris. Kia Nurse got off to a strong start earlier today, but Odyssey Sims stole the show with 30 points for Team SECREST in that win. So a big game for the former Baylor guard there. Again, if you get a chance, go check this out. Support this effort. It's the only 5-on-5 women's basketball during the WNBA offseason. Obviously, a lot of WNBA players taking part in this, and it's good stuff, man. I don't want to say basketball is basketball, but women's basketball is very enjoyable to me, and I just think if you get a chance to go check it out, especially right here in your backyard, it would be worth doing. So
at the end of the day, I'm all about entertainment value, and you're not going to get much higher return on your investment for what a ticket will cost you to get in that building and what you're going to see. And that's not even including, post-game autographs, all the other in-game kind of intricacies that go along with that. It is really an affordable night in a city that can be a bit of a challenge to get entertained on the cheap.
Yeah. Speaking of women's basketball, the Indiana Fever doing what it can or what they can, whether Fever is singular or plural, to put some talent and experience around rising second-year superstar Caitlin Clark, signing DeWanna Bonner as a free agent here recently. Bonner been in the league for a pretty good while, has had some success in the league, former University of Florida standout, and said she's coming to Indiana because she wants to win another championship in the WNBA. So certainly feels like they are on their way to that. She won 2 out at Phoenix, joining a team that, in addition to Caitlin Clark, obviously has Aaliyah Boston and has Kelsey Mitchell, and so they've got the goods, as Wade likes to say. in a Eastern division that is in flux, it feels like, despite the New York Liberty being your defending champion and being in that division. But, they've kind of had some moves. The Connecticut Sun has certainly had some moves. That's where Bonner is coming from. So maybe the Fever can move up and get into a spot where they can do some damage here in Clark's second season.
Absolutely. And they got Lexi Hull, but they also picked up Sophie Cunningham this offseason coming over from Phoenix. So, I mean, they're kind of loading up, and Vegas is treating them accordingly. They have the fourth best odds of any team to win the league, trailing the Liberty, trailing the Aces, and trailing the Lynx. So that's good company to be in. And after the Fever, it really falls off a cliff. So at least if you're believing the bookies, we kind of already have our four best teams. Obviously, it will not play out this way. But they're getting some love from the Sharps.
Well, those folks tend to know what they're talking about, and so the Fever folks are going to be keeping their eye on the Fever anyway. But now, from a competitive standpoint, they'll bear watching as well. More free agency news. The active saves leader in Major League Baseball will be looking for more with a team that I'm not sure how many opportunities he's going to have to get saves, but Kenley Jansen has signed with the Los Angeles Angels, a 1-year, $10 million deal. And it's interesting because, again, the Angels haven't been great. He's leaving the Red Sox to join them, and former Tennessee reliever Ben Joyce was probably in line for that closer's role until the Angels signed Jansen. So I guess Joyce falls back into the 8th with Jansen coming in to take over the 9th. Again, I don't know how many save opportunities the Angels are going to provide him with to kind of pad that active saves number that he's got. 25 plus in 12 straight years, 4 years with 40 plus saves, career save percentage of 88.2, and got a few of those with the Braves a few years back. So, wish him well. And obviously he was with Atlanta when Ron Washington and Eric Young were with Atlanta, and there's probably a little bit of a comfort level there from that standpoint. So maybe he can help out a young team that's looking to move up in the AL West.
Yeah, bring a little veteran leadership, and you're right, the connection there with those two guys previously in Atlanta probably had a little something to do with it. And then also, he spent 10 plus years in a Dodgers uniform. So when you talk about this story, I was obviously prepared to hear that the Dodgers had signed another free agent. But hey, if you're a West Coast guy, if you love living out there, you can't, if for some reason the Dodgers don't have room for you, seemingly they got room for everybody else. But if they don't have room for you, the next best thing, obviously, just move on over to Anaheim. And, it'll be interesting to see how many true save opportunities he gets. I'm envisioning, hey, if I'm 37, I'm in the twilight of my career, I'm okay kind of just sitting in the bullpen. If I get my number called, that ain't the end of the world. If I don't, that's also not the end of the world. But that will be interesting. And obviously he provides a lot of leadership for them as well.
And as Flavor Flav once said so famously, they got to pay me, boy. So, yeah, you're right. We'll see how that works out. Also on the Angels roster, incidentally, former Chicago White Sox shortstop Tim Anderson has signed as a free agent. And I don't know, have we heard from Tim Anderson since that dust up out at second base with the Cleveland Indians? Was it Jose Ramirez that dotted his eye?
Mm-hmm.
I think he kind of fell off. I thought he kind of fell off the planet not far after that, basically. But he is he has signed a minor league contract with the Angels, and he's going to compete for the shortstop role that right now is vacant with Zach Neto suffering a shoulder injury or out with a shoulder injury. So see how that goes. Again, Anderson, over the last couple of years before he was released middle of the season by the Marlins last year, hit
That's why you hadn't heard of
235.
him, Mo. He was playing for the Marlins.
Yeah. Well, I think they released him mid-season though,
Yeah.
too. So, but yeah, he's hit 235 over the last 2 years. And this is a guy, man, who was a rising star. I mean, literally, I think a lot of it had to do with that fight, man, because he just kind of fell off the face of the earth after that.
Yeah, Ramirez went full Bud Crawford on him, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that, you know, Anderson kind of started that deal and Ramirez certainly finished it. Real quick, want to give a shout out to Father Ryan boys basketball coach Doug Bontrager, a Irish graduate, graduated in the class of 1981 down at Ryan. Last night we mentioned that Ryan defeated Christ Presbyterian Academy. That was Bontrager's 600th career victory. And I'm pretty sure all of them came at Ryan. Very impressive.
That is a long time of a long stretch of success, to say the least.
Yeah, and certainly deserves to be recognized for it. So, again, Doug Bontrager, 600 victories at Father Ryan, and congratulations to him and the Irish. Wish them luck going forward. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we continue Wild and Wacky Wednesday, after this break, we'll be joined by Landon Secrest talking a little NBA. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, wackiest, and most wondrous news from across the globe. Stick around for that. Right now, we are joined by our favorite NBA analysts, Landon Secrest, Spring Hill High School and Belmont University graduate, and a hoop head for sure. Landon, thanks for coming in with us, man. Good afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah. I know you're excited by the trade deadline having passed and the All-Star game coming up. What were your takeaways from what happened at the deadline?
I think the biggest thing is that there was so much buzz around who was being moved and who moved where and what teams didn't make any moves in this trade deadline, so much that it kind of overshadowed the Super Bowl. Obviously, both things have passed, being the deadline and the Super Bowl, but the week leading up until the big game, it seemed like the NBA was dominating news. I mean, you got Luka Doncic in LA, you got Jimmy Butler moving, KD had trade rumors. It was really a fun time for me because I like to look at all the news, but man, did the NBA world get shaken up, even with the smallest of moves. I mean, there were some things that were really shaken up headed into the trade line. And I think we'll see some more as the season progresses, with the buyout market. That should be something to monitor too.
Wade?
Yeah, Landon, I mean, I guess we should start with the Luka trade. And I'm curious your feedback because the Lakers obviously made another move that we could discuss. But what were your immediate takeaways? And yeah, where were you at about 11:55 on the Saturday night? Were you awake at that time?
Actually, no, I was not. I have a group chat with some of my closest friends where we just talk about everything sports, and they usually know my wind down time is well before the time that the trade broke. So I was actually asleep, and I just got several consecutive buzzes on my phone, and I was like, it seems there's some type of emergency because my phone doesn't ring this often. And I wake up and check my phone, and Luka Doncic is a Laker, and I'm just shell shocked. I mean, I did not know what to think. It's just amazing. I was literally speechless at the time. I've had obviously some more time to reflect, and he's played, so I've got to see him play on the Lakers. But wow, literally, that was my first reaction. Wow.
I mean, it was a seismic shift, like you said, that really overshadowed 2 or 3 days, maybe even 4 days of Super Bowl coverage. That's kind of the deal we're talking, and the markets and the players we're talking. What do we make of that move in the immediate future for LA? And what do we make of that move in the long-term future of LA?
I think for LA, obviously, there's conspiracies going around, but, basketball aside and seriousness fully, I think that this is a good move for LA. And when you look at the basketball part of it, Luka Doncic is one of the younger superstars in the league. Obviously, we know everything that he's done up until this point in his career. So from a basketball standpoint, we don't know how it's going to work in the long term. But LA, you talk about a match made in heaven. You want global impact. You've got arguably the biggest global superstar in the NBA. So I think it'll manifest however it should, when LeBron and the sun sets on him in LA. I think they have somebody to fall back on. And I think, Anthony Davis wasn't really going to be that person once LeBron left. And now they have that person that they can rely on once LeBron and his greatness is no longer.
Is Nico Harrison going to survive this trade?
Mo, I'm really not sure. This is something I've really never seen in terms of discourse and fan reaction for a GM. And I was listening to, my normal routine of podcasts and listening to these opinions on the trade. And one of the biggest points that was made was we see a lot of these new GMs that aren't really focused on the basketball. They're focused on the publicity and the betting now. That's a big part of sports. They're not really, focused on this guy has an impact. And, we've had a superstar in Dallas, Dirk Nowitzki, who gave everything to the city. A new owner and these people that are in new leadership, not just limited to the Mavericks, but they're not necessarily always focused on what makes the most sense. They're focused on maybe making a headline or maybe getting the most money and getting their name talked about. So I think, Nico Harrison's going to have a tough time for a long time.
His name talked about.
Yeah.
Didn't go over well at American Airlines Arena in the aftermath. Did not go over well at an SMU game last night. I mean, the entire Metroplex is, excuse me, up in arms over this move, and I guess AD not being available for the next little bit doesn't help the situation any either.
Yeah, I agree. I even have an international friend that I had met while I was on one of my study abroad trips, and I texted him about the trade, and I was like, he's from Serbia, and I was like, "What do you think of the Doncic trade?" And he was like, "Well, I think Mavs ownership is ridiculous, for lack of a better term." I'm not going to repeat what he said, but I mean, you've got people on the other side of the world that are pointing at Mavs leadership currently, and it's like confusing. It's really honestly confusing. I don't know if we'll ever get the full explanation of what really transpired with Luka going to the Lakers and AD being a Maverick, but wow.
That was just one of the big moves. Obviously, Jimmy Butler on the move to Golden State. And what, real quickly, break that trade down for us, and then also what other moves, whether they were publicized much or not, caught your eye at the deadline there.
I think the most interesting thing was the move to Jimmy Butler to Golden State, just because there was so much conversation about who was going to go where in that trade. Obviously, Butler coming from the Miami Heat, he had been in the media, been in the headlines for the past couple of months, not playing, but where was he going to get moved to? And he gets moved to Golden State, which is interesting because Draymond Green is a dominant personality over there, and Jimmy Butler is, I would probably say, he's a dominant personality too. So once those two actually play together, get in the locker room, get active, maybe lose a couple games and experience some tough times, I don't know how that's going to work in Golden State. But I think the bigger thing with that trade was who didn't get moved. Obviously, Kevin Durant wasn't involved in a multi-team deal. Obviously, Bradley Beal can't get moved because there was no trade clause. And Wiggins is going to the Miami Heat, which I think will be great.
It sounds like you've been listening to Wade with regards to that Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green dynamic with Golden State, because Wade is taking bets on when those two square off or when they team up against somebody else. So
yeah, I think it's gonna happen. You see what both of them have done in the league, on and off the court, in practices and away from the basketball court. I mean, it's not necessarily the most ideal thing, but some good things can come from it.
At the end of the day, we're talking about a 500 team who has won 2 in a row, but interesting matchup tonight. It'll be on ESPN. They play the Mavericks in Dallas. So that'll be interesting to say the least. But yeah, that's what I'm worried about. We're talking about a team that on its surface is a 500 caliber team. They're barely in the play-in game at the moment. So they're erring on the side of more bad situations than they are good. And it just feels like a ticking time bomb in that locker room.
Yeah, I think it is. And poor Stephen Curry. I mean, the Warriors, since KD has left, really haven't been able to get another co-star that's of the magnitude that everybody would think when you see the current state of superstars pairings in the NBA. He's had players beside him, but not really getting a Luka Doncic caliber player beside him. But now he gets Jimmy Butler, so we'll see what that happens.
Landon Secrest joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little NBA. Landon, how fired up are you for All-Star Weekend?
It really always gets me going when it's time for All-Star Weekend. I love it, despite the fact that people are saying that, the dunk contest is watered down, three-point contest, yada, yada, yada. I really enjoy just watching the players come together. That's always something I've enjoyed. The product of the actual All-Star game has diminished a little, but I'm excited for the new format. We'll see how that goes. If we have to continue changing it, I think we're seriously in trouble as far as the league. But I'm excited to see the new format. It seems like there was a draft, but I don't think there was much of a plot. I think there was definite picks that were already in stone. I don't think there was anything that was surprising for how the teams laid out, but I'm excited to see them play on the court.
So you're excited about it?
Yeah, I am very excited about it.
Okay.
Big weekend, if nothing else. I love watching. I usually don't get to catch it live, but I do love catching up with the celebrity game, which kind of eases you into the weekend. The Rising Stars has really kind of always been my favorite event, even going back to the old USA versus the World days. And then Saturday, I don't know if it's going to be on NBA TV. I'm just seeing that now. Morehouse and Tuskegee will play in the HBCU Classic. And then that does kind of ease you into Saturday night, which, Landon, you're right. It kind of doesn't feel like it has as much luster But at the end of the day, it's still going to be kind of entertaining. And it's one of those events you'll at least probably flip on whether you get a dramatic moment or not.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just a little upset. I'm going to put my OKC Thunder bias in here, of course. Isaiah Joe, as far as I saw, is not in the three-point field for the three-point contest. I think he's one of the best shooters in the league. I think he deserved that call to be on the list. Maybe wouldn't have necessarily made it over some of the people that are in the field, but I think Isaiah Joe needed that call. I just need to say that.
It's warranted.
Yeah, there you go. You get your shots in. What are your thoughts, Landon, about former Cane Ridge standout Damian Ball signing a two-way deal with the Hornets here in the last day or so?
I think, with Charlotte being where they are, I think it's ground for a lot of players to get experience. I know they're obviously not one of the best teams in the league and they're one of the bottom feeders, but you look at getting an opportunity to play, getting eyes on you and getting your name out there. It's great for that. Obviously, everybody wants to be on a contender and play for championships, but really when you're, getting your name out there and want to get into the league and make a name for yourself, you need to start in a place. And I think, Charlotte is one of those places, probably along with Washington and a couple other teams, that you can get some reps in. And that's what's most important at the stage that he's in.
And, excuse me, in that same vein, we were kind of thinking that was going to be the case for Dalton Connect when he was in that trade to Charlotte that was sending Mark Williams to the Lakers that got rescinded here a couple of days ago. We've been trying to figure out what the locker room is like for Dalton Connect walking back into LA after they've tried to trade him and then reversed it.
Yeah, I really don't know how that works. We saw in the Lakers game that he was on the sideline in the tech fleece, and he wasn't really showing a lot of emotion. He was pretty straight-faced the whole time. So obviously it's very emotionally taxing for a rookie, going through that. In your first season in the NBA, this is what you experienced. You're getting traded, then you're ready to go to Charlotte, new opportunity. Then wait a second, you got to come back. And wait a second, actually, the trade is still somewhere in the NBA limbo, actually, because they're filing some grievances. So who knows how this is going to end up turning out. But Dalton Connect is pretty much in limbo, which is a horrible position to be in for him. I personally feel bad for him.
Especially in his rookie year.
Yeah, it's not a good situation.
And you've already kind of let the cat out of the bag. You don't know if you'll get that kind of offer for him again when you presumably put him back on the block. Landon, speaking of trades, I do want to ask you, how sneaky or how nice of a move was it that Cleveland picks up DeAndre Hunter? These guys are now 5.5 games clear of the Celtics. Is it time to think that the Cavs have all the pieces put together?
I think DeAndre Hunter was having a really good season in Atlanta. I've really been high on him since he came out of Virginia. He's one of those people on the wing that has that length and can shoot the three ball and really can defend. And I think he can fit straight into Cleveland and what they're already doing. They're already one of the best teams in the league. Obviously, they've shown that this season. And when you add someone of his caliber, I think it's going to make them a lot better, and it prepares them for what they'll see in the Eastern Conference. You got to get somebody that guards Tatum, maybe can switch off on the Giannis, maybe can switch and guard a Jalen Brunson, those types of people. So I think that's a good move for Cleveland.
As we clear the All-Star game and head into the final stretch to the playoffs, what are you looking for? What are your expectations out of this next few weeks?
It'll be interesting to see, obviously, Oklahoma City and getting Chet Holmgren back, how he gets into the flow of the team for the rest of the season as they gear up for the playoffs, if they can still maintain that 1 seed. And they're pretty clear right now. I think it's the Grizzlies and a couple other teams that are in the pack between 2 and 4. They can give them some problems potentially for that number 1 seed, but I think that'll be interesting to monitor. And then obviously with the Lakers, how does Doncic help them post-trade deadline? Can they get a center? Obviously they only have Jackson Hayes on the roster right now. They got Alex Len, and how is he going to fit? What are those teams going to look like? And then in the East, it really comes down to matchups because, Celtics 1 seed usually, but they're maybe not going to be the one with the way Cleveland has been playing. So who's their playoff matchup going to be, and what side of the bracket are they going to be on? And all those things are going to be very important when you have a team like New York, a sneaky team like Indiana in the East, and you got Milwaukee who can give people some problems. So I think matchups are going to be some things to watch, or how are teams really going to fight for playoff positioning, because you can always rest your starters, but really you want to get yourself prepared and get those pre-playoff reps to get you ready for the big games.
You know, you mentioned Milwaukee, and one of the first trades of the trade deadline period, I guess, was Chris Middleton going to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma, and that one kind of threw Wade and I off a little bit. What were your thoughts on that?
I think, Middleton has battled some injuries since their championship season, and I think we've kind of seen him fade away from that star level player that he was. And I don't think he really fits the timeline of what they're trying to do in Milwaukee. Now they're kind of finding their stride, Dame and Giannis in their tandem, but Middleton, where does he really fit alongside them? I think it was just time for them to move in a different direction. It'll be interesting to see if he stays in Washington or if he's a buyout partner and maybe he gets to a contending team. That would be a nice piece for anybody that wants Chris Middleton.
Landon, real quick, don't know how deep we ever get into Spurs and Trailblazers talk on this show, but Portland, I know they've lost 2 in a row, but man, they had really been kind of turning a corner, handicapped their chances in the second half. And then obviously, what do we think of Fox and Wemby kind of teaming up as the Spurs sit there just a couple of games out of the play-in at the moment?
I really like Fox and Wemby, obviously. Getting somebody else that can handle the ball, get in pick and rolls, facilitate the offense, and run in transition. De'Aaron Fox is literally one of the best people for that in the NBA. So I think that's a great pairing. We've seen what that has been in the couple games that he's played. And then Portland, like I was saying earlier about being in Charlotte, getting those guys reps. You may not be one of the top teams, but you're getting these guys experience. Credit to Chauncey Billups. I know he was getting a lot of slander for the Trailblazers not being so great, but when you string a couple together, we saw with Houston a couple years ago, maybe they squeak in. I know it may be a long shot, but maybe they squeak in and string together some games late in the season and find themselves maybe in the play-in. You never know.
Scoot is kind of playing well up there in Portland, slowly turning things around. I like what you're saying.
Yep, I agree.
Landon, what is the significance of Ben Simmons going to the Clippers?
I still don't know if Ben Simmons is really ever going to get back to anything close to the level that we saw him as. I think Ben is still a great threat for, give you 10, 10, and 10 at any time. But is he going to give you anything more than that? Is he going to be the dominant type of player we saw him as in the couple early years in Philly? He can still put up good numbers, but what we were expecting from Ben Simmons is not what we're getting in 2025. I hope that he can get a resurgence in the Los Angeles Clippers, much like Harden has, and Norman Powell's playing great. Maybe that'll inspire him to be what he previously was. I'm excited to monitor that situation too, because the Clippers have been playing well.
Yeah. Landon SECREST joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little association. Landon, always appreciate it. How's everything else going, man? What are you up to now that you are out of school and kind of in that limbo before the job search really kicks up for you?
Yes, sir. I'm still weighing my options, looking for the right fit and all of that regarding that. But, just getting time to reflect, be with my family, that's always great. But realizing that this is a transitional period, I still get time to get reps in for myself like this, talk about what I love and, just being happy, finding happiness, what makes me happy, enjoying basketball. Obviously, that's my number one sport, but just enjoying everything right now, just relaxing, being cool, being chill.
Entertaining offers from franchises.
Yes.
I like that. During this period
100%.
during this period right after the deadline, that's a good place to be.
Yes, sir.
This guy's available. He knows his stuff. Landon SECREST joining us again here on Main Street Sports today. Landon, as always, we appreciate it and look forward to catching back up with you here soon.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Wade.
Thank you, Landon.
When we continue here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday on Main Street Sports today, presented by TOA of Columbia, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Wade and I will bring you the weirdest, wildest, wackiest, and most wondrous news from across the globe. Stick around. You'll be glad you did.
Let's go Stros.
People are amazed at the variety and quality of guests we bring into Main Street Sports today. But when you've been in this business for nearly 40 years and you never throw away a phone number, it's pretty easy. Right, Wade?
Absolutely. And Wynn agrees with me. Check out some of our guests featured on Main Street Sports today.
Step back and catch my breath. But I expect nothing less from you, big boy. Let's get going.
We make it work pretty good. So
the fans are tremendous. It's fantastic.
It was really amazing.
They call it performance. Yeah.
From preps to pros, you never know who's going to stop by, so be sure to listen to and watch Main Street Sports today from 2 to 4 p.m. daily on the MSM TV app. It is the final segment of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and it is time for Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Let's start in Pennsylvania, where authorities have yet to crack the case of egg theft. 100,000 eggs were stolen from the back of a trailer in Pennsylvania. 100,000 eggs valued at $40,000. The eggs disappeared and nobody has any idea where they went. We're relying on leads from people in the community. So we're hoping that somebody knows something and they'll call us and give us some tips, says a spokesperson for the Pennsylvania State Police. In my career, I've never heard of 100,000 eggs being stolen. This is definitely unique. This is from Trooper First Class Megan Frazier, a spokesperson for PSP who has been in that position for 12 years. Now, obviously, we've seen that the price of eggs has climbed here of late, and bird flu hasn't helped with that. But the average price of eggs per dozen went to $4.15 last month. I'm sorry, in December. A dozen eggs was priced as high as $4.82 a couple of years ago, but prices are expected to continue to rise. I don't know how long 100,000 eggs last. I don't think you can necessarily hold them until the market really peaks, but there's eggs missing in Pennsylvania. Here's the thing. At some point, the evidence is gone, right?
Yeah. What eggs? I don't have any eggs.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone, right? I love this. $40,000 worth, roughly, which makes it a felony. Frazier points out, and I'm immediately thinking, there's 5 good seasons of Money Heist on Netflix, but we might be onto a new series here with a little egg theft. Whether it's Money Heist or Ozark, we can kind of workshop the script there, but this feels like it's got some legs.
It really does feel like it's got some legs, and it feels like this might not be the last time we hear of something along these lines.
Yeah, this was just the first. I mean, these guys just got caught slipping, right? There will be a little more calculated effort, I feel like. 100,000, that's kind of rookie numbers as the bar has been set now.
Yeah, we did it once. Right? I mean, why can't we do it again? So why can't we get 250,000 eggs next time? That's I don't know, man. I'm not going to jail for stealing eggs, I can tell you that. So meanwhile, across the continent, across the ocean and into Hawaii, there is a volcano, Kilauea, that is erupting. It has erupted like 9 times in the last 2.5 months. Now, there's no danger of anyone getting hurt by it. No residential areas have been threatened by lava from the Kilauea volcano, but it is shooting lava once again, or was as recently as yesterday. One of the world's most active volcanoes. It's been erupting on and off for nearly 2 months since bursting to life 2 days before Christmas. Yesterday, it shot lava about 330 feet high, which is basically the distance from home plate to either a left or a right field corner at your average major league ballpark. So take that, extend it upward. This thing was shooting lava that high.
You know, I'm thinking cameras and smartphones, you know, you can shoot in 4K now. People better be careful. And I'm reading this story back from the initial in January. You can see it from public overlooks, but don't be one of those people. You know, you ain't going to get that much better footage than anybody else, no matter how fancy your phone is. So don't be that guy or that gal trying to get close to a little lava. No way, I'm out.
Yeah, that closer is better thing. Yeah, miss me with that. Again, yesterday it was the 9th episode. Earlier episodes have gone from 13 hours to 8 days. So Kilauea is active. Beware. It would be cool to see from a distance, like you said, but I don't know how close I would want to get.
I'm not risking it. One of my good buddies, Kevin Hood, he's taking his family out there in a couple months. So maybe he'll get a peek, but I beg and plead you, Kevin, don't get that close because what'd you say? 330 feet. I mean,
330 feet.
Whew, no, thank you. I'm out on that.
Yeah, I'm skipping that. Something, Wade, that I am really a little surprised we don't hear about any more often. A defendant in a homicide case in New Mexico was attacked by 3 members of the victim's family in a courtroom. Felony charges were filed against a couple of guys, battery and assault on a public official. I guess that was the law enforcement officer that tried to protect said defendant. And a woman was also arrested on the same charges after hitting the defendant and an officer with a chair. And I can tell you that I don't know that I could be in the courtroom with the person who was accused of hurting someone close to me and not react in a similar manner. So like I said, I'm a little surprised that we don't hear any more about these type of incidents than we do.
No doubt. And, you know, I immediately thought about this. Happened not last year, but 2 years ago in Nashville. And it not only happened in the courtroom, it spilled out into the hallway. And I'm like you, that is emotions are high for everybody involved. I'm very kind of surprised that this doesn't happen. I know that the legal system, you know, they try and mitigate that at every opportunity. But, man, yeah, it does not seem – it seems a little shocking that it doesn't happen more often. And, man, like you said, I would not want to be in that situation.
No. Last year in Nevada, a defendant jumped over a judge's bench and grabbed her and brawled with law enforcement officials in the courtrooms. Kind of, if you are a defendant, you're already in a bad spot. I don't know that you necessarily want to make things any worse like that. But again, victims seeing someone who's hurt somebody that they care about, I don't know. Maybe you need closed circuits so that they aren't in such close proximity, or maybe you just let them. I don't know. That's a tough one, but I guess cooler heads eventually prevailed, but again, three folks have been arrested for this one.
Hey, and Jim Harbaugh is a huge fan, but you wonder, Judge Judy, how she pulled it off all these years. And I'm reading, she said about that judge incident you just mentioned, said she was shocked by it. And I'm like, man, she lays the law down. So I mean, I'm kind of surprised, she's 81 years old. Don't be hurting Judge Judy now.
No, you don't want that smoke, because there's probably some folks that would get between you and Judge Judy if it came to that. So
yeah, Harbaugh would tackle somebody if it came down to it. I'm almost positive of it.
I don't know if Harbaugh would or not, though, because he's got that hip surgery. Either he's had it or he's got it coming up. So that might not be the move for Jim.
That's a good point. He could maybe poke out a crutch or a cane and trip somebody. He had her out as the honorary coin toss captain earlier this year. So, I mean, his love runs deep. I feel like he would go to any lengths. But, yeah, physically he may not be able to at this moment. But it does make you wonder how she's skated by all these years.
In Australia, I would have Mark play Burning Down the House for this one. A man described feeling the shudders as more than 100 venomous red-bellied black snakes were removed from a pile of mulch in the backyard of his home in Sydney, Australia. 102 pregnant and newborn venomous snakes in your yard. Now, y'all can have that house.
Yeah, that house has got to go up in flames. I mean,
yeah.
On one hand, yeah, I mean, they're little babies, but I mean, come on now. I mean, whoa.
I mean, the question that I have to deal with in that situation is, if we captured 102, how many did we not catch? No, that house has got to go, or I've got to go from that house.
Yes, yeah. Somebody's got to go, either the house or me, right? I mean,
I can't stay there. That's not happening. David Stein called Reptile Relocation Sydney last week after watching around 6 snakes slither into the mulch. Snake catcher Dylan Cooper arrived that afternoon. Stein helped rake away mulch. No. As Cooper bagged 102 pregnant and newborn snakes. No, that's just not happening. Dude, the snakes are in there. You get them. I'm leaving. A Reptile Relocation Sydney owner, Corey Currawaro, said 2 of the captured adults gave birth to a total of 29 snakes in the bag. In the bag, while Cooper was still sifting through the mulch, catching more. Yeah, Cooper sifting through the mulch, not Stein, because I'm done with this. Again, 5 adults, 97 offspring were eventually caught. Experts don't know why so many snakes gave birth in such a short time frame at Stein's 3.5-acre property. I don't care. Corey said the largest haul he'd heard of in a similar snake removal job was 30 non-venomous carpet pythons. Pythons hatch from eggs while red-belly blacks give birth. You can get a decent number like that when the babies are hatching, but to have this many venomous snakes, no one's come across it. Dude, this is crazy.
I'm seriously rethinking whether or not I want the Titans to go to Australia now. All of a sudden, I have my doubts.
The Titans can go to Australia. I'm not going to Australia.
I might have to sit that one out.
Yeah. The snakes are a protected species. How is that? They're venomous. They're venomous and protected. That's like they can do something to you, but you can't do anything to them? No.
Yeah, how does that work?
I don't know how that works. A couple of months ago, Stein's Jack Russell Terrier killed a juvenile red-bellied black that bit her. Yeah, I don't blame you, Belle. Yeah. She spent 4 days in an animal hospital and recovered after multiple doses of anti-venom. If that happened in December, this would not be happening in January or February because, again, I'm out. I am out. Within the next couple of days, this big pile of mulch will be gone. You're darn right it will be.
Yeah,
and
we are done at that point.
It will be a big pile of ash is what it will be. No, we're burning this down. I'm done with this. Goodness gracious, no. I I can't imagine. It's some crazy stuff going on in Australia, Wade. You really want to rethink that whole situation. There is a corpse plant. Are you familiar with corpse plants?
I don't think so.
A rare bloom with a pungent odor like decaying flesh has opened in the Australian capital of Melbourne in the nation's third such extraordinary flowering in as many months. The corpse flower bloomed for the first time in its 15 years at Canberra's Australian National Botanic Gardens on Saturday. It was closing on Monday. Late last month, one of those plants flowered briefly in the Sydney Royal Botanic Gardens. 20,000 folks showed up to see and smell said plant. Similar numbers turned out for another bloom at the Geelong Botanic Gardens southwest of Melbourne back in November. The corpse flower only blooms for a few days every 7 to 10 years in its natural habitat. Its rancid scent attracts pollinators such as flies. Why would you want to put yourself through that? I don't know. The flower began opening around lunchtime on Saturday, and its rancid odor quickly deteriorated. By Saturday evening, it was incredibly pungent. We could smell it from across the road. It was definitely gag-worthy. Admirers likened the stench to a range of dead animals, rotten eggs, sweaty socks, sewage, and garbage.
I don't know which of those is the worst.
I don't know which of those is the best, but I mean, I don't want to smell any of that. And I'm certainly not going to, any lengths to do so.
I give them props though. 15 years, I would have had to throw in the towel at that point if this thing hadn't bloomed. I got a couple cacti that haven't bloomed in like 6 months, and I'm getting ready to maybe one or two of them may have to bite the dust here. But 15 years, that is a long time to hold out for a rotten smell.
What do you do for cacti, Wade? Because I mean, they don't need a lot of water. I guess they need something to grow, though. I mean, how do you take care of cacti?
I have no idea. They've bloomed every couple months for the last like 6 years, and then within the last 8 months, 2 or 3 of them feel like they're dying on me here.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are you sure they're still alive?
No, I really don't know, and that's what I'm saying. Do I have to wait 15 years? Do I have to keep
don't
these
know
things around?
I don't know if you have to wait 15 years, but I hope it doesn't stink like the corpse flower when it does. So
yeah, if that happens, we're out.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Stinky flowers and snakes. No, I think I will be skipping Australia. That is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street today. That's going to do it for us. Join us tomorrow. Well, join me tomorrow at 2:00. David Wilson will be riding shotgun because Wade has a unavoidable scheduling conflict.
I'll tell you all about it Friday.
Okay, sounds good. Hey, David and I will see y'all tomorrow, 2:00 right here on Main Street Sports Today. Y'all have a great evening.